Out of the Grid by Tigran Hamasyan. It's like the final boss of songs. Hello there, members of the internet. I am back from my break, and today, in episode 50, of course, I'm celebrating 50k subscribers. God damn, 50k subscribers. I'll be discussing Out of the Grid by Tigran. This track is one of the most recognized tracks from his 2015 album Mokrut, and for a good reason. This song has a bunch of rhythmic riddles in it, so let's just get into it. Out of the Grid. Okay, so we start off with a piano intro that soon gets reinforced by the band. Let's count that. Listening to it a couple times, I recognize a sequence of patterns that have a small gap in between them. These blocks are repetitive for the most part, and that can help us when looking for the time signature. So if we get rid of that gap by adding it to the previous block and making it a bit longer, we get a sequence that roughly looks like this. Short, short, long, short, short, short. At this point, if we focus on finding out the beat count for the small blocks, we have most of the answer, so let's figure that out. And we'll do that by taking one block, repeating it, and slowing it down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5. So all the small blocks are 5 beats long. Now we just need to find out what the beat count is for the long block. In a lot of cases, I can just feel the length of these blocks. It gets easier the more you do it. But in the cases where I can't just feel it, I use an ancient scientific method that goes back thousands of years, called guessing.
Blinken, what are you doing up there?
Guessing?
I know that the block is longer than 5, so I'll start with 6. I'll try and count that, and if it works, amazing. And if it doesn't, I'll guess again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. No. Well, it doesn't. Do I care? No. Should we move on? Sure. 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now that seems to work. So now we have all the blocks revealed. And 5 plus 5 plus 7 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 equals 32. Oh boy, 32. Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
What you talking about, Willis?
32 is a suspicious number, and I'll tell you why. So 4/4 with a 16th note subdivision is arguably one of the most used combos in Western music. That's safe to say, right? So 32 and his evil brothers 16 and 64 are always some indicators that we may be in a 4/4-ish environment. Because 16 beats can be counted as one bar of 4/4, 32 can be counted as 2, and 64 can be counted as 4 bars of 4/4. So we may be dealing with some manipulation of 2 bars of 4/4. But we don't have any musical evidence to support that yet. So let's move on. So if we hop on forward, we meet a riff that is built over the same structure, but this time it feels a bit different. Check this out. While your instinct may indicate a triplet feel, it's just an illusion. Yes, the stack is indeed playing groups of 3, but 3 16th notes. This pattern doesn't quite fit into our 32-beat frame, which is why this little skip here happens. Okay, moving on, we get to this section. And for this one, Well, I hope you have your thinking shoes on. Remember this video? If you don't, you may want to go over it, but very broadly speaking, that video discusses a cool alternative way to switch up internal rhythmic cells. So in our case, our cells are 557, 555, which, as I said earlier, is short, short, long, short, short, short. So Tigran takes these groups, and with the magic of just deciding to do so, he switches to this. So short becomes 4 and long becomes 5. I'll demonstrate it and try to listen to the high piano pattern. That would be the one following my count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So our 32 sum is now down to 25. Notice that this doesn't mean that the section is shorter. It's the same length, it's just internally divided to fewer subbeats. Like the difference between a quarter note being divided into 4 16th notes or 3 triplets. The quarter note length stays the same, but the triplets would just feel slower because it has, well, less notes. Which is why this section also sounds slower than the previous one because it has, well, less notes. Anyway, once we got how this rhythmic transition works, now we have a new battle. This 25 beat cycle is divided in 2 different ways. So on one side, we got the new groups we found, 445, 444. While the other side divides this 25 into 5 groups of 5. Okay, so let's check out what instrument plays what. We have drums, bass, and piano. So let's start with drums, because I like drums. That stack symbol thing is playing on this side, hitting the beginning of every 4 group and dividing the 5 group into 3 and 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. The kick and snare, of course, are playing on the other side, playing the first note of every group of 5. And just because this isn't complicated enough, the kick and snare pattern looks like this. Kick, kick, snare, kick, kick, snare, kick, snare, kick, snare. Which is a sequence of 10, so that's fine, I guess, because it covers that 5 pattern twice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, great. Let's tackle the piano. The right hand, the higher side of the piano, goes here. Also playing the first note in every group, including the 5 group. And we have 6 groups in total. And this is supported by the melody played by the right hand, which is a 6-note melody. G, E flat, B, G, F, and C. As for the left hand, the lower side of the piano, that one goes here, playing the first of every group of 5. And while one can only hope for a 5-note melody to match these 5 groups, the left hand actually plays the same melody as the right hand, only a few octaves lower. Which obviously makes this whole section a bit messier, as this 6-note melody doesn't really align nicely with the 5-group phrase. Oh, and the bass is chilling, like bassists usually do. And it's joining the left hand of the piano, like bassists usually do. Now remember, these 2 rhythms happen simultaneously, and it repeats 6 times, where in the last 2, the high piano shifts to play a different melody. So, side A, side B, and together.
more?
In this section, we're still in that new, slower tempo, and we have another way of representing that same pattern of 4-4-5-4-4-4 that is played by the piano, bass, and kick. And it looks like this. This obviously still equals 25, unless math changed in the past few minutes, but over this we'll have a different groove played by the crash and the snare. You'll recognize this groove from all the music. Smash these two patterns together and you'll get this jazz version of a Meshuggah riff. Now remember how, what feels like a decade ago, in the beginning of the song we were in a different, faster tempo? And we slowed down by turning a 5-note pattern into a 4-note pattern? Remember? Well, are you ready to go back? Because that's exactly what's happening next. As I said earlier, these groups of 4 used to fit 5 notes in the same duration. And at the end of this riff, we're going straight back to where we started, turning these groups of 4 into 5s, making the tempo faster again.
Make
The tempo
great again.
1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 5 1.
And once we're back in original tempo land, we finally get a hint that would solve our time signature question from earlier. This section incorporates the same bass line we heard in the intro, only we have a backbeat, ladies and gentlemen, a backbeat on beat 3. This is enough for me to call this 4-4, which means that if we go to the beginning of the song, I'm pretty sure that the correct way to count this would be this. And that's it, folks. This album is an audience favorite for a reason, and I was lucky enough to get to play some of these songs with Tigran a few years back. I sure hope he'll need me again at some point because that gig was fire. And on that note, I just want to thank you for subscribing and supporting this channel. It means a lot to me and I really appreciate it. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next week.